This video is a little late to the party since the game came out about a week before I managed to record it, but I didn't get an advanced copy, nor did I get to play the game early. So it took me this long to get through level 60 and put together a few of the new paragon points with my first character, but I thought I'd offer up a non-streamer perspective of the Vessel of Hatred expansion for Diablo 4. Hello and welcome to Society Case Files. My name is Robert, and today I'm going to talk about what to expect from Vessel of Hatred, what it is, what it isn't, and how I feel about it overall. Please take a moment to subscribe to the channel, drop a like, and let's get going. Diablo 4 has a lot of haters, and I get it. Expectations were high when it came out, and in a lot of ways it failed to deliver for some people. I think they kind of missed some points, and by them I mean the people who made it, especially when they dove into Seasons so fast. And while I could carry on about the base game's failures as a whole video, I'll kind of stick to what's different and what's just come out. First off, I don't think Vessel of Hatred will change the minds of those who are severely against the game. If you thought they failed completely full stop, then this expansion isn't going to wow you back. And if you're coming back having not played any of the seasons, many of the changes you're going to see aren't necessarily from the expansion itself. Over the course of the 5 seasons before Vessel, they did a lot of work. They redid the items, they changed up hell tides, they learned a lot about progression and builds, they added the pit and created the Infernal Hordes activity. They did tons of stuff, and it really shows. The game became a lot better, especially in Season 2. And don't even get me started on Season 1 and what a train wreck that was. I've had jobs that were more fun, and those were like day labor jobs, where I gathered up paper to make notepads. Yeah, it was fantastic. Anyway, Vessel's adds more campaign, companions, a raid, and a few other activities, so there are now quite a few things to do in Diablo, which is a huge change from the base game. Many of them make the game feel sort of like they really are trying to go back to Diablo 3. I mean, the pit is pretty much just greater rifts. And they've added a little bit of World of Warcraft to it as well, you know, with the raids and this Realm Walker activity. It's sort of like an event in Dragonflight where you follow around this big monster and do a bunch of stuff, and then at the end fight something huge and get rewards. In this case, the Realm Walker is a little bit different in that he drops a portal and then you do a little solo thing. It's pretty cool. But with all of this, is Diablo 4 fun? Well, that comes down to your tolerance for grinding, RNG, and despite all the activities, a fairly repetitive game loop. I played all the seasons except 3. I was seriously burned out by playing too much of 2. There were vampires, and they had my number, and I even was playing it on my handheld during my workouts. It was a little nuts. I would say that it was probably one of my favorite gaming experiences at that time. So yeah, I was a big fan, but 3, I looked at it and I was like, no, I can't even imagine this anymore. So I mean, I still have some frustrations, but I really enjoy the game all around. It can be really sweaty. I mean, you're like out there trying to get specific drops and RNG just isn't working for you. Great case in point. I've been trying to get the aspect that allows me to have an extra Hydra for my sorcerer since the very beginning of this season, and I only just got it, and I've got like 60 some paragon points. So that's just the luck of the draw, especially considering that the last season I played, I got it practically on my first handful of legendaries. So it's that kind of thing that can really annoy people, but for me, it has this really casual, I can just bust out a quick pit run and feel like I accomplished something. That said, there are still a lot of things that are annoying. You know, if you wanted, for example, a specific unique prior to the way that it is now, you had to just pray. I must have run a boss that dropped one that I wanted probably 100 times and I never got it. I eventually actually finished all of the chapters rather than even getting that item. The next season, I killed a few things, grabbed the boss, and boom, there it was. Just dropped, no problem. But now in Vessel of Hatred, there is a new activity, the Undercity, where you can actually do tributes and sort of tailor what you're going to get from the end boss. Not necessarily uniques per se. As far as I know, I haven't gotten there yet, but reading about it, it does state that you can guarantee legendary ancestral items and that there's an increase of mythic uniques. So at least you have a better chance of getting things. And honestly, with itemization, they did make a change to some of the RNG so that you've got a better chance, at least, of getting things. I know I saw some people fuming about the changes in itemization from Season 5, where you can modify your gear and try to get some of the stats you're after. But RNG can give you the same thing over and over and over again, or basically make it so you run out of tempers or mats. I've had it happen. It's pretty annoying. You've only got 3 options, and it just keeps picking the same one over and over again until you can't temper that particular piece of gear anymore. So you got to grab another one. Now, I found it irritating, but it's not really that big of a deal, specifically because by the time I got to the point that I was tweaking my gear that much, I had so much in the bank that could fill that slot. And until you're pushing the very high end, it's a little harder to complain about it, mostly because you'll pretty much find what you need up until the upper tiers. And then, yeah, you're going to get pretty irritated when you get the wrong stuff. So I accept it because I'm a Diablo tool, and Blizzard pretty much has me by the, whatever. Anyway, I heard someone say that at a certain point, you recognize you're grinding just for the sake of pushing a difficulty with no value. As in, you need to tweak some gear just so you can survive the next jump in the difficulty level, to overcome the penalties imposed on you by the difficulty, or just to say you could do it. And I know a lot of people just bow out at that point. And I get it. It makes sense. I create my own objectives. For me, the chapters in a season are generally what I go by. And if I get through all of them, then I do find that I'm sort of done with that season. I don't really want to just keep pushing for the sake of saying I did. I try to get as close to my ideal build as I possibly can, but once I finish all the chapters, I'm not generally going to go out and just farm a boss over and over again to get one specific unique, especially like what I said earlier, where I did that once and just never got what I wanted. So it's hard to put a lot more time into a character when you know for a fact that a season is going to end in a few weeks, or even a month if you're really crazy, and then you're just going to start all over. Seasons in Diablo 3 came after we'd been playing the game for a long time, and the notion of starting over was really fresh and cool because, we'd already played one character for a long time, and this gave you some incentive to try someone new. Diablo 4 was out for like a month, and they wanted you to abandon the character you just started and did the campaign with and jump into the seasons, and that was a little bit harder of a sell because I hadn't even really fully explored the game yet. So it wasn't like we had done everything with a character or two and then we're looking for something new to do. They were like, all right, you've barely had your hands on this game. Let's see what happens next. And they didn't really have the resurrection into the season yet, and they still don't, to be honest. And so I know that it doesn't really make that much of a difference, but for me, I kind of liked the resurrection. I guess it just played on my psychology, but I mean, we've already established that I'm a Blizzard simp, I guess. Grinding for the best of the best items or whatever in an MMO, like, wow, that kind of makes sense. You keep playing the same damn character. But in Diablo, I totally understand why people might check out when they achieve whatever they want and not press on. It would be especially annoying to finally get the drop you were after and desperate for, to know that maybe even in only 3 days, it's going to be useless and you're going to have to do it all over again. You get nothing. Vessels swapped up the difficulties as well. Now, instead of 4, there are 8. And instead of doing a capstone dungeon to unlock them, you just got to complete certain tiers of the pit. I'll say that in the 40s, hard was a little painful for me, only because I didn't have the ability to tweak my build the way I wanted. I didn't quite have the aspects, didn't really have the resources. It was okay, but I kind of stuck to normal until I got up into the 50s, and then I was able to push much harder. Penitent is likely where you'll start at level 60 just to sort of get your feet wet and get some paragon points under your belt. Once you've done that, I was able to get through all of chapter 4 in short order for the season. Most of the requirements put you into the penitent difficulty. But then I got into Torment 1, and it does say that it's going to hit you pretty hard with the 250 armor reduction and remove 25% of your resistances. By the time you're in Torment 4, you're going to have 1,000 armor reduction and 100% resistance reduction. That's pretty rough, but I've got to be honest, Torment 1 is pretty darn easy once you're in level 60 and you've got a few paragon points. I was tearing through the content without too much trouble. I only got one shot one time, and that was during an event in Helltide. Other than that, I've been able to survive pretty well. So in the earlier leveling phase, depending on how squishy you are, depending on how aspect dependent your build is, you might suffer a little if you change up the difficulty, but otherwise it doesn't matter too much. I kind of like how they did the new difficulties myself. People who really want to challenge are going to have an avenue to pursue. I'm a little beyond casual, but not quite competitive enough to get to the top in Diablo, so I could see myself topping out at Torment 2, maybe dipping into Torment 3. I don't think that Torment 4 is going to be for me. As far as the campaign is concerned, I don't really want to offer any spoilers, but if you like Diablo campaigns, then you'll probably enjoy this too. I loved the campaign mission in the first game, and I'm not really here for story either, so I prefer just playing with my build and mowing through dozens, if not hundreds of enemies. But, you know, it's still cool that they actually spent some time on it. If you guys remember Diablo 3, that was really abrupt. There was like Doctor Who style time jumps in 45-minute episodes where all of a sudden it's a year later and you're like, wait, what? And it felt that way in Diablo 3. All of a sudden everything's different and you're just like, I don't, you couldn't have put some of that into gameplay? Whatever. Anyway, I want to wrap up by saying I played Vessel of Hatred with a sorceress, and I had a good enough time with it. There are a lot of other small changes I didn't cover, new powers for existing classes, the Spirit-Born class, and the Mercenary Companions. They have skill trees now, which is kind of cool, but it's another throwback to Diablo 3 in my opinion. Will the things Blizzard has done here win you over? I mean, that depends on how much you despised the initial release or your relationship with the RNG. For my part, I'm glad I got it, and it's been an entertaining distraction. I'll definitely keep pushing on. I'm probably going to make another character and give them a shot. So we'll see how far I get. What do you think of Diablo 4? And have you played Vessel of Hatred? Do you have an alternative ARPG that you think is better or more entertaining to play? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for stopping by for my thoughts on the Diablo 4 expansion, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye now.